My name is Ken Lerch. I'm president of the National Association of Letter Carriers, branch 3825 out of Rockville, Maryland, representing Rockville, Gaithersburg, Germantown, Damascus, and most of Montgomery County. Today we came out, last Friday our group called Chris Van Hollen's office and urged him to co-sponsor HR 1351, which he did. So we wanted to come out at the rally today and also thank him for co-sponsoring. Now, why is HR 1351 important to the post office and important to postal workers? Okay, HR 1351 allows the Postal Service to get its own money back because they've overfunded for pensions. Okay, and Congress, the way Congress works, they won't just give that money back. Congress wants to take that money, keep that money, in essence, steal the money, okay, so they can give tax breaks to their millionaires and billionaires friends or for another war, whatever they've got planned. But it's the Postal Service money. They've overfunded. All we're asking for is that money to come back to the post office, okay? And we're not talking about a tax bailout. No tax bailout. We're not talking about any tax dollars here. In fact, there's not one single dime of taxpayer money that's gone towards the post office in the last 30 years. Most people don't know that, but we need to get that message out. Not a tax bailout here. The post office has been doing quite fine. That's another lie that's being told by the major newspapers who are owned by the rich people, the TV stations which are owned by the rich people. We need to counter the disinformation campaign that's being waged against us by anti-union people and rich people in this country. The Postal Service has made a profit of $800 million over the last 4 years. What other company has made a profit of $800 million over the last 4 years? Maybe some oil companies, right? And the post office. So the point is the Postal Service is doing just fine. If it wasn't for the $5.5 billion that the Bush administration made the Postal Service pay, part of the 2006 Postal Accountability and Enhancement Act, if that wasn't levied against the post office, they would have made a huge profit in the last 4 years. That $5.5 billion is for the pre-fund for future retiree health benefits, and no other company, no other institution, public or private, is required to pre-fund for future retiree health benefits. It was meant to cripple the post office financially. There's no reason to do it. They're pre-funding through the year 2082. Think about it. Some of these people haven't been born yet that will someday get in the post office and then retire. So obviously, nobody else has to do it. So why was it done? It was done as part of a plan to cripple the Postal Service financially so it could be privatized, so rich people like Darrell Issa could buy part of the post office off and just take the cream. In other words, deliver mail between New York City and Washington, D.C. and Chicago and L.A. There was probably $10 billion to be made in profit there. But then who's going to deliver to Montana? We want to keep universal service at universal rates so everybody can afford the post office. If it's privatized and they're given cheaper rates from D.C. to New York, it would cost $50 to mail a letter to Montana or Alaska. Think about the cost to go from here all the way to Montana to mail a letter. So we need universal rates so they can't, if it's privatized, so they can't jack up the rates on the American people. Now, another reason, why do we want this money back? Well, the Postmaster General has stated he wants to go from 6 days to 5-day delivery and close 4,000 post offices from around the country. The American people deserve these post offices. They shouldn't have to go 20, 30, 40 miles for a post office, and there's no need for it. All the Postal Service needs is its own money back, and all these financial woes will disappear. Okay, the Postmaster General has also said he wants to cut. But going from 6-day to 5-day would cost 80,000 postal jobs. 80,000 postal jobs. Think about that. In addition to that, the Postmaster General wants to cut another 120,000 postal jobs, or RIF, do a reduction in force of another 120,000 postal jobs when it's totally unnecessary. If the Postal Service can just get its own money back, if Congress would allow that, instead of trying to keep the money for rich people, keep that money to give tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires, you know, if we can get them, just give give the money back to the post office, these draconian cuts will, and draconian cuts on the workers and draconian cuts in service will not have to occur.
What do you think the attack on the post office means in the context of the general attacks on organized labor, and what this organizing and fight back will mean in terms of any kind of labor movement upsurge?
Yeah, there's no question this is just meant to bust the unions, because the money's there. The Postal Service is overfunded into its pensions. There's no tax, there's no bailout like the people on Capitol Hill are saying, especially Darrell Issa, the Republican from California, and Ross with their bill HR 2309, which is just union busting, plain and simple. That's all that bill is. It would crush the unions. In fact, it would establish a panel that would have veto power over everything in our agreement. So in other words, collective bargaining would be gone. That's how dangerous the ISA bill is. Yeah, and I'd also like to say that today, September 27th, I believe this is the first time in the history of the country that there's been rallies at every single congressional office, all 435 congressional offices all across the country. All 4 postal unions and other workers and the community coming out in support of us and against union busting here today. I don't think that's ever happened before. And you can see when we get mobilized how successful it was, how much passion was there on the line, the chanting, the speeches that were given. But this should culminate in something even bigger, and a resolution was passed last week by the Committee of Presidents of the National Association of Letter Carriers, urging our National Union President to have a massive demonstration, a massive rally around the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C., where we could get 50 to 100,000 people out working with all the other postal unions, Richard Trumka, and the other unions. And we saw what happened in Wisconsin, right? When the unions all got together with the community, you saw how effective it is, and anything's possible when the people unite. Okay, so we want to have all the postal unions working with the other unions, community groups, and other progressive groups in Washington, D.C., all working together to build this national action around the Capitol. That will bring out maybe 1,000 different media outlets, and we could counter the disinformation campaign that's being waged against postal workers and the post office. You know, such as the need to go from 6-day delivery to 5-day delivery, or cut 120,000 postal workers' jobs, union jobs. So we need to be able to get that message out that the Postal Service is not losing money. It's doing quite well. If Congress would just allow the Postal Service to have its own money back.
And in addition to mobilizing for local and national events, is there anything else the community can do to support the unions and postal workers?
Yeah, well, we want the community to be involved. In fact, letter carriers have been voted the most trusted government worker 10 years in a row. So the community, I mean, why does this community love the postal workers and the letter carriers so much? Well, we're in the community every single day. We see the children when they're born. We see the children grow up, go to college. We get invited to their parties. So we're part of the community, and we're friends with the people on our routes. Okay, so we have gotten a lot of support from the communities. They've written letters to the editor about how much they like their post office, and we want the communities and the people to continue to come out, support us on these rallies, and especially the big rally and demonstration that will probably happen sometime in November at the U.S. Capitol.